And actually one on the board, and Jay does not have access to Jason Mind Sculptor. Um, Now, as someone like myself, I am not familiar with how the Sneak and Show mirror match works. How on earth does the Sneak and Show mirror match work? Because, they both can just fling Emrakul's off of, like cheating. And, like, what are you trying to do in this matchup to win against
Um,
an opponent who can also leverage the cheating creatures into play?
I think Gristlebrand.
Gristlebrand? Okay.
Yeah, because you definitely want that opportunity to really pull a lot of extra cards into your hand,
Yep.
stuff that you can actually play, especially when you're running things like Cunning Wish with Release the Ants,
Okay.
because that gives you a lot of opportunity there to just constantly to do a lot of damage without actually having to swing in.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's kind of tricky though because Release the Ants isn't always seen. I know Jay runs it in his deck because it's a really good answer to things like Ensnaring Bridge.
Yeah.
But
And then I feel like
Anthony could also get away with actually doing the Jace Ultimate if he can.
yeah, because that's a win condition that doesn't because I'm looking at like show and tell, and it's something like each player may put an artifact, creature, enchantment, or land
Yeah.
card from, and so like that lets you get omniscience into play, but that also lets your opponent get omniscience into play,
Yeah.
and that lets you put your Emrakul or Gristlebrand into play, but that also lets your opponent put their like how on earth does this work?
It's kind of tricky. Mostly because you when if because Emrakul's what's her Annihilator?
Annihilator 5 or 6.
Yeah,
So basically, when it attacks, it just blows the whole board up.
yeah. But with Omniscience, you get that extra turn off of it.
Yeah.
Whereas if you do Show and Tell with Emrakul, you don't quite get that. Kind of a good thing to try and get out early game. And it's also just a matter of counter wars.
Yeah.
There's a lot of back and forth with the Fluster Storms.
Okay. And,
Spell
and
pierces.
James is opening on a Boseiju.
Okay, so
So he's going to be resolving his spells.
it comes at a
yeah.
cost though.
Yeah. I'm really interested to see what happens here because I
Yeah.
just without understanding the matchup, it seems like you just can't like you know what I mean. It's kind of like the ad nauseum matchup in Modern, which is just the stupidest matchup ever because like no player can ever combo off because the other player can like split second like. Well, no, you split second, Angel's Grace, so then you can't die. Then it's just like the dumbest, stupidest thing. So I'm curious what this looks like when the things that let you cheat stuff also let your opponent cheat stuff, and kind of part of the way that show and tell gets to do stuff is because they can cheat things into play, and you say, yeah, you can go ahead and cheat your thing into play, but mine is an Emrakul, and it doesn't work as good when your opponent's thing is also an Emrakul.
Yeah. So it looks like he's Cunning Wish. I wonder what. No, it goes for the intuition.
Okay.
Okay. So he's looking to pretty much set up at this point right now with the Force of Wills in hand.
Yeah, I feel like that Boseiju has to be really good for him here because
It
I
does.
mean we know Anthony is running a few. So 2 spell pierces, 4 Force of Wills. So the Boseiju just basically says like those cards aren't good.
Yeah.
You know, nice cards that don't do stuff.
Yeah. So the one thing is that Boseiju does come at a bit of a cost, which late game can be a bit more noticeable.
Sure.
Right now, I think Jay has a really good position, especially with the intuition in
And
hand.
the pedal
Yeah, just
and there's
a lot of
not
options.
not a ton Anthony can do about it.
Yeah. I guess Anthony's just hoping to that if he's up against if he realizes he's in a mirror match, he's looking to have something worthwhile in his hand.
I suspect he must know.
Well, there is a
You know,
gristle.
based on the lands in play and you know the intuition, like
Yeah.
he has to suspect what's going on right now.
So it's kind of interesting because he does have a Gristlebrand in hand. So I wonder if a show and tell does drop, and
Yeah.
how you deal with that. Because it looks like
Yeah, I don't think.
Jay has 2 Force of Wills
And he has
and a Gristlebrand.
Gristlebrand and a sneak attack.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
So I mean, the Gristlebrand's effectively trade, but if you could get an edge off of the sneak attacks because you can pretty much cheat Gristlebrand in right away, and then pay life, draw cards,
Yeah,
gain life
and then
back.
put another thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm gonna see. I kind of want to see how this goes because it looks like they're really more just stocking up.
Well, I mean,
hands.
Anthony looks like he's got the sneak attack in play.
Yeah. Oh.
So I mean, things are happening. I think we're going for it.
Yep. So
Okay.
he has. Wow.
Yeah, you know, when you've got 5 mana.
Yeah, that's true. So he does.
He's got a sneak attack of his own, which
Yeah.
now can't be countered.
And actually,
So Anthony
Actually-
looks like he's going to respond, but I'm not sure what he can respond with.
I think Boseiju only makes your instants and sorceries uncounterable.
Is it only? You know what? I think you're right.
Yeah,
So
'cause
let's.
He could sink this into. Yep, looks like he's sinking a Spell Pierce. And Jay exiles his intuition to force that.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I think at this point James has. Oh, and Anthony follows that up with a.
Force of will of his own.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we're pretty much at par again.
All right. So
Both are-
who draws more stuff that matters?
Yeah, that's kind of the tricky point. I mean, the unfortunate thing is that Anthony had to
Yeah.
pitch his show and tell to Force of Will, but now it's
Alright.
just a matter of cantrips. So preordain. This is a ponder.
And you know, being able to like this when
Ooh.
you're not immediately under threat of just being dead is I think really powerful for James right now.
Yeah. The one thing is though is that Anthony does have a Gristlebrand and an Emrakul in his hand, so it's Jay's play options here for things. He can't run with a show and tell and hope that works in his favor.
Yeah.
He's kind of
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like show and tell is just kind of, you know, what does it do with this matchup?
Yeah. So, wow. Anthony actually does have a bit of an advantage right now. So he's gonna play sneak attack,
Yeah.
and he's gonna go fetch a land.
Mm-hmm. No, I like his altars. They're
Yeah,
they're quite well done.
Is he gonna go for? Well, he goes for. Oof. You see, I'm a bit surprised.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I guess that's the mirror breaker. Is
Yeah.
you know, resolve the sneak attack. Get to play your Emrakul before they resolve a sneak attack and get to play their Emrakul.
Yeah, that's effectively it. I'm a bit surprised. I feel like I would have won for the Gristlebrand, to be honest, but I don't know if
Well, I
that
think
would have
because the Emrakul just wins. Like,
Yeah.
I think, you know, I don't know the life total, yeah, the life totals, it wouldn't have been lethal, but like you're not coming back from sacking like your entire board.
Yeah.
Now, sideboard wise, Anthony has 2 Grafdigger's Cage, 2 Abrade, 2 Pyroclasm, 2 Arcane Artisan, 2 Blood Moons, 1 Jace the Mind, yeah, the Mind Sculptor, and 4 Leyline of Sanctity. I don't really like any of it.
Yeah. I mean, they're very much by the looks of both of these sideboards, they're very much built against decks that aren't.
Aren't each other?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's not a whole lot of options. I mean, does he have the Blood Moons? Maybe might help him a bit.
Possibly. I feel, you know, if your opponent starts, you know, just fetching a bunch of basics, like you're kind of wise to what's going on.
Yeah.
And I mean, against a blue-red deck, like things have to go extremely right for you for Blood Moon to be any good at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if your opponent just plays turn 1 island, you go, oh crap. So so I assume probably we're not going to see the Blood Moons.
No.
Possibly Anthony maybe brings in his second copy of Jace.
It looks like he does, actually.
Okay.
You got to see a bit of what he's pulling in. I'm not too sure what Jay would do about this, though. I think Surgical Extraction's a good one.
Yeah.
Definitely. Especially when it's a sneak attack, because even if you're at, say, 5 life from Emrakul swinging in from a sneak attack, you still get that option to completely remove her. Firemind's Foresight. And a Wipe Away definitely would be helpful, I think.
Wipe Away is probably great, yes.
Yeah. So having those. The extra Flusterstorm might actually be a bit helpful.
Sure.
When you're in a mirror match, I think taking out the Force of Wills is actually a bit more beneficial, in my mind.
Okay. Yeah, because, I mean, you want card quantity, right?
Yeah. You're really aiming for having a lot more cards in your hand, just because that's more playability.
Yeah. So Firemind's Foresight is returned to Ravnica. I thought maybe we saw a Guilds of Ravnica card sneak its way in there. Not so much. Still waiting for that.
So they both seem to have pretty awful hands by their own opinions. They're both mulliganing.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's also one of the issues with combo decks is a really bad opening hand.
Yeah,
is kind of hard to recover from.
I mean, it kind of depends, right? It's sort of like you draw a brainstorm and now you're off to the races, you know. And if there's like, because combo decks really they do 2 things, right? They combo and they find things that combo, and like that's it. Like when that's all your deck is and lands, like you're mostly okay as long as you don't draw nothing but lands.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, there is always a possibility that you just, like, have all your Emrakuls in hand and just nothing to do with them.
Alright. So,
players
they're both keeping their cards on top. So, Jay opens up with an island.
And Anthony, I think, has the Ponder. Is that a Ponder? Yeah.
Ponder, no, Brainstorm and Flusterstorm.
Okay,
a lot of Storm.
It's a blue cantrip. You know, he's gonna find cards and make his hand better. And
this Brainstorm timing is such a fun mechanic to work around.
Okay.
So he opens up with a Ponder. Wonder if he finds anything worthwhile. I think this is sort of the...
Is one of those cards an Emrakul?
One of them was at least a show and tell.
Yeah, it looks like he didn't.
And a Force of Will he drew off the top. So, I can't quite see that last one. It looks like a ley line, but I doubt it is. Because I don't see it in the deck list.
Yeah, Anthony has Leyline of Sanctities, but I can't imagine that he brought them in. They don't seem to do a ton. So that, I'm assuming that must be the Arcane Artisan?
No, that I think is a promo Ancient Tomb. So Anthony plays a brainstorm.
No, that's the artisan. So,
Oh yeah, that one there.
one of those battle bond two-headed giant cards that were never meant to play in one-on-one constructed. So, Arcane Artisan. Target player draws a card, then exiles a card from their hand. If a creature card is exiled this way, that player creates a token that's a copy of that card. When Arcane Artisan leaves the battlefield, exile all tokens created with it at the beginning of the next end step. So that seems great. It's looting, and you can get copies of your Gristlebrand's and Emrakul's and...
So Anthony very obviously brainstorms in response.
Yeah, because, I mean, does James have the payoff for the Artisan? Like, does he have any of his giant creatures that he... Yeah, he's got Emrakul.
And he brainstorms again.
Well, I think Anthony realizes he's got to do something about this Artisan.
Yeah.
And I guess that's kind of like, maybe this is the mirror breaker, is you bring in, you know, the thing that makes tokens of your big creatures.
Yeah. He's running 2 in his deck, in his sideboard, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think it seems great here.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you know, Anthony's under a ton of pressure to do something about it.
yeah.
Very different than the last game, which was kind of, you know, like sculpt hands, build some resources, you know, sneak attacks, see if that gets to resolve or not. This is just like, all right, turn 3 Arcane Artisan. Are you gonna answer it or are you screwed? And Anthony might be in trouble.
So he's not pulling out all the... Sorry, he's pulling out all the stops to get as many lands as he can right now.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, I guess, to be expected at this point. This is shaping up to be kind of an interesting match right now, just because Jay put himself in that
Yep.
advantage. So
Anthony has looked at a lot of cards.
yeah, just 2 Emrakul's off the top there from the Ponder.
Yeah, probably not helpful right
Yeah.
now.
So this is quite the matchup. Not gonna lie. I'm gonna see what he drew. Jace, the Mind Sculptor.
Okay.
I don't know if that...
Not sure. Well, it can bounce. I mean, if he's not just dead, which
Yeah.
he might just be dead. Now, actually, having said that, that's actually reasonably okay if the Jace can resolve, because James is going to make a token of the Emrakul, but because it's not cast, it's not going to get the trigger, I believe.
Yeah.
And then that puts the Emrakul into the graveyard, so he no longer has an Emrakul in hand. And if Anthony can play a Jace and bounce the token, he might actually be okay.
Well,
But that kind of relies on the Jace actually resolving.
yeah. Well, that's also the thing right now, though, is because Anthony does have an Arcane Artisan in hand as well.
Oh, does he really?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So I think it's just one of those situations, though, where because Jay got his into play
Out
with
first?
yeah,
Yeah.
without much pushback, that Anthony is looking to is not really in any sort of good position.
Okay, so there's the Jace, and let's see if he can get it to resolve. I think for Anthony's position, I think definitely getting the Jace in play is a lot better than getting the Arcane Artisan in play.
Yep.
Unfortunately, he does not. So he could be. Yeah.
I feel like he took too much of a gamble with that.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure what else he could have done.
Well, he
right?
could have played the Arcane Artisan on his...
But then he's also still dead.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Arcane Artisan. Heck of a magic card. Go
Yeah.
figure.
I'm not surprised.
Who would have thought tap, pay 2 mana, put anything you want into play would turn out to be powerful?
Just, it's sneak attack on a stick.
Yeah. And I mean, it does have to tap. But again, like, you're not bringing in your creature removal, or maybe you are. Maybe you bring in. Do you think you bring in your Abrade for the Arcane Artisan? I wonder. It seems really situational, but then at the
Yeah.
same time, is if the Artisan resolves, you can't do anything about it,
Yeah.
right? So I mean,
Well, I guess, because you could go with a Pyroblast.
yeah, or that.
Pyroblast, I think, comes up with it's a good answer to a lot of cards.
Now
That card,
Anthony, I don't think is running Pyroblast.
which is a bit surprising.
Yeah,
Usually, a lot of Sneak Show decks I've seen, Omni Show decks, do run Pyroblast.
yeah. I see. Jay is running one in the board,
Yeah.
so just one in the board.
Which is usually just good enough. But, like, it's just one of those things where it hits so much.
Yes, absolutely.
And
Now, yeah, Arcane Artisan and O3, so Grim Lavamancer. Yeah, I think if you bring something in for it, you bring in a Braid, but I'm not sure you even want to do that. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, sitting there holding in a Braid while your opponent is, like, on the sneak attack plan seems
Yeah.
pretty bad.
yeah. It's like, oh, hey, you played Gristlebrand, I'm going to deal 3 damage to it.
Yeah, you know?
I mean, like, maybe if you're... Does a Braid only hits creatures, though, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you can't even use it as burn.
Yeah. I was going to say, because if you're staring down a Gristlebrand and they're being exceptionally greedy, you could probably sneak a little damage in there just to
Yeah.
close the game, but...
Surprise lightning bolt.
Yeah, you know what? Why run a Braid when you can run Lightning Bolt?
Yeah, well, I mean, deals with ensnaring bridge for sure.
Yeah. Okay. That makes a little bit more sense in my mind then.
Yeah, because ensnaring bridge is a thing. Like
Yeah.
it's and a braid is really really nice in that against so many matchups you want either creature removal, also not to be just dead to ensnaring bridge. Like
Yeah.
for instance, there are some decks like Burn is one of them. Burn plays ensnaring bridge quite commonly.
Yeah.
But you don't want to bring in something that only hits artifacts. That's terrible against Burn.
Yeah.
But if you bring in a thing that also kills their creature and they don't have an ensnaring bridge, like suddenly that's a much more playable card.
Yeah.
And that's why things like Abrupt Decay are very good and a Braid is very good, and because that's almost main deckable. Like
And Pyroblast even, like
Yeah.
I was saying before. Stuff that can hit multiple different types of targets at different times.
yeah, it buys you more sideboard space.
Yeah.
And it also brings you options where the matchups where it's not really good to go all in on answering one specific card.
Yeah.
What that does mean though is I mean, what do they do about Arcane Artisan?
Yeah.
And I think Anthony I think has to Jace it, and I think that's it. I think if Artisan resolves, it's otherwise just you can't do anything about it, because I don't think he's bringing in a Braid. He's definitely not bringing in a Braid's the only thing that hits it anyways.
Well, I mean, that's also the thing, too, is Jace is really up there in cost, comparatively.
Yeah, 4 mana.
Yeah.
Yep.
That makes it really kind of a shaky card to run with. I think you get more mileage out of, say, something like Vintage, where you can get a lot of mana out really quickly.
Sure.
But he seems kind of... I'm not too sure if it's a good plan for him, just because of how costly it is.
Yeah.
Especially given his land base.
Well, and you sort of have to go shields down at that point.
Yeah.
Like if you tap out for your Jace, you only really have access to Force of Will to stop your opponent from just doing something that you can't answer next turn.
Yeah.
I do think if you can resolve a Jace, it's incredible.
Yeah.
But the very difficult part is can you resolve that Jace? Okay, so we've got a judge call, I believe, downstairs. So we're gonna have a quick delay on that and see maybe how fast we can get a judge down there, or what's going on exactly. But Maybe not. I'm not too sure.
I think it might have just been Anthony maybe drew too many cards for after mulliganing. That sometimes is a thing.
Yep.
And it's not easy to keep track of sometimes. And when you make a mistake like that, a judge has to be present just to ensure that,
2,
So-
3, 4, 5. Yeah, so it looks like the forced mulligan.
Right.
He's got some cantrips.
Yep.
So
And he's keeping his card on top. So he's looks like 2 preordains and a sneak.
yep.
Yeah, okay.
It's not the worst.
Nope. And what does he draw off the top? A Gristlebrand. Okay, I can see why he kept that on top. So I guess right now he's just sort of fishing for cards that are helpful. Looks like a volcanic island in there. He's probably gonna... Yep. Puts that on top.
Do you guys need an explanation on that?
Sorry, what was it?
It was a
So we did just get clarification from the judge on what that was, and yeah, Anthony accidentally drew 7 when he'd mulliganed to 6, so the judge presented him with the choice of reveal your hand, and your opponent basically gets to pick one of those cards that get thought seized, so you go down to 6, or do the forced mull to 5, and Anthony picking the forced mulligan to 5, which I think is probably correct. I think, in this kind of matchup where you've got, counter spells and you're trying to resolve your own things that just can win the game outright, knowing exactly what your opponent has can be incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
So I think probably going down to 5 is better than your opponent knowing your starting hand, which, I mean, if you've got like brainstorms, it becomes a little trickier. It can be an entirely different hand, but I still like the mulligan down to 5, I think.
You have to really, when you're brainstorm, sometimes you really have to pay attention to a player's hand, how they stick the cards into their hand, what cards they decide to move around, and that sort of thing, and watch them just. You have to keep track. It's like the 3-card Monty in a way.
Yes, absolutely.
But which is why sometimes whenever I play brainstorm, I just draw the 3 and shuffle my hand up and then look at it again.
Yeah, it's a good habit to get into. Is just maybe every turn shuffling your hand a little bit.
Yeah.
Without turning into one of the card flicking people, because that exhausts me just looking at it. Like I feel tired. Like, and I couldn't do that. I run out of mental energy usually towards the end of a day of Magic, anyways. But certainly, I think that's probably better than just, holding your cards in such a way where your opponent goes, all right, well, you drew that one on the far right. Cause,
yeah.
I
mean, it's those little edge plays that some people really, really tend to try to take advantage of.
Oh, for sure.
So,
for sure, absolutely.
And so a show and tell just hit the board. I wonder what's... Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Okay.
Although,
No, I think that was a concession.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's no other reason Anthony would be revealing his hand. So, I guess he could have countered that, like the show and tell, but I guess he thought
he was really hopeful.
Yeah, that maybe, which that seems incredibly risky. Your opponent's going to show and tell and just not have it?
I mean, I think what you really should do at a point like that is if you see that hit the board like that.
Yeah.
And they were like Omniscience and they cast Emrakul. What you should try and do is just pay the life and draw the cards with your Gristlebrand if you're in that position.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. Unless there's something I'm missing, though, I feel like doing the show and tell or sorry, yeah, letting the show and tell resolve in the first place, I think, was kind of sketchy. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Especially when you only have Gristlebrand.
Yeah.
You know, like, if you had, I mean, you have to think like if your opponent has a Gristlebrand, then you both just draw like a bunch of cards, and it's
Pulled the show from his deck.
okay.
Huh. Interesting.
But I mean, so if you both have Gristlebrand, then you both have Gristlebrands, which is not ideal. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not sure I see a way that works out for Anthony by letting that resolve and not trying to force it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, at the worst case in Jay's instance, the worst case that he could pull out with a show and tell is playing sneak attack off of it.
Yeah.
So, and that still is some advantage for Jay.
Yep.
The thing is if you tap out, your 3 lands for a sneak attack, you can't really run anything after that.
Yep.
But-
Absolutely. So I'm going to step down and try and get Jay in the booth and
Okay.
see if he can tell us a little bit about his deck, about the matchup, what he thinks going forward for the tournament, and we'll be back in just a minute.